What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 83 of the RXP podcast where three working professionals talk all about their love for movies, TV shows, and video games. I am, of course, Matt, the host of today's show, and I am joined by Tiffany.
Hey, everybody. Shout out to my friend Keith.
Sup, Keith? And Alex.
Hey, it's me. I don't have any shout outs.
Hey, you can shout me out, man. It's okay.
All right, shout out to Matt, the co-operator.
Hey, that's right. Which we're going to get more, man. We're going to get some co-op. I'm feeling this Black Friday sale that drops. Remnant 2. It's going to happen. We're going to finally put it on the dossier. Dossier? Docket? Whatever.
I hope those trophies are fixed.
Yeah, like I looked at how long to beat. It looks 25-ish hours. Is that right?
That's a weekend.
I have no idea, but that is a good amount of time.
No, that's
Tiffany,
a weekend.
let me tell you about Alex. He's like, hey, this new PS Plus game that we got for free, we should play it. Like, it's definitely, it's definitely bingeable, whatever. It's probably going to take about 100 hours, though, to platinum. And I'm like, whoa.
You're like, I'm not even booting that up.
Listen, we are struggling with a small platinum trophy together, my dude. Like 100 hours.
I'm already 10 hours in.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you're 10% done.
So
Is
you're
it
not
fun?
even
It's
co-oping with him. You're just playing by yourself.
I needed to try it out. I need to see the trial. I need to feel it. It is very
What is
much
this game again?
Aliens Fireteam Elite.
Okay.
So I think it came out back in 2021, so it's already a couple years old. But it's your typical third-person, like horde wave-based like survival shooter where you're basically moving throughout a linear level, fighting hordes of xenomorphs, like trying to make it to the end. And it embodies a lot of Left 4 Dead, World War Z, those types of games, and it's fun for that fact. But I think the best summary it's a very good podcast game. Like, you don't play this for the story. I mean, there is a story, but I'm not invested in the Aliens universe, so it doesn't really appeal to me. But as a competent third-person cover-based shooter, it's pretty fun, and you can just play it mindlessly while listening to something or watching something on YouTube in the background, and it's great for that.
Okay.
That sounds like our game, honestly. I'm glad you're liking it, but I think Remnant 2, that's going to be it. Because we've been playing Meet Your Maker, which came out for free, and so we're going to get that platinum pretty soon, I think, right? I don't know. I don't think we're that far away.
I mean, that's also
maybe a little bit more grinding.
Like, these are all grind. Like, all these games are the grind fest.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, it's not a grind fest, and it's not about a game that was 2 years ago. It's the Game Awards, right? With Jeff Keighley, our boy. We reached out for him to come on the pod and be our fourth chair. Didn't get back to us. It's either we invited the wrong Jeff because he spells his name weird, or he's just busy. He's a busy man.
He's prepping for the Game Awards, so I get it.
That's true. Do you guys think there has to be a huge announcement? And he's wishing that GTA 6 was that announcement.
Oh, no, it definitely is GTA 6.
You think so?
He has the GTA 6 debut trailer locked and loaded. Rockstar's
You don't think it's going to happen before?
Jeff, you deserve
this. I think it is. It has to be, right? Because they said that it was going to come out early December.
Okay.
Early December is the Game Awards.
Coincidence?
Yeah.
I think not.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, good on him for finding that. And too bad it leaked, I guess. But
or did it leak? I thought they just said it. I thought the company just was like.
Listen, I've got all my wires crossed. I have no idea.
Okay.
I'm not sure what happened.
I mean,
I know it was online. But that would be awesome. That'd be like Elden Ring level in my mind. But
I think there might be some Hades 2 news. They just have a tradition,
Oh, yeah, 100%. Because was it Hades 2 part of last year's Game Awards? Or was it Summer Game Fest?
No.
I can't. It's hard for me to keep these.
I think it was the Game Awards. I know.
And which did you guys see? Oh, go ahead, Alex.
I was just going to say, hot take, we're going to get the teaser for Nintendo's official announcement of the next Switch.
Switch 2, eh?
So
You
we
think
won't
so?
see
The
it,
new Switch.
but Nintendo will
new
tease
Switch.
it that there will be an upcoming presentation talking about it.
That sounds lame enough to be them. Like, that sounds pretty close to be true.
Like,
I feel like Nintendo doesn't want to play nice in the sandbox most of the time, but I guess if someone was to do it, I guess it'd be Jeff. Who
like
knows?
it's literally an advertisement for their next Nintendo Direct. You mean like instead of an
Yeah.
actual to Nintendo
They'll
Direct?
be like,
Yeah.
look forward to like January 21st, 2024, where we welcome in the next generation of play.
And then it's just that.
And
then
then
that's it.
another sound. No. It's going to be that click with another sound that 18 million YouTubers are going to try to figure out. in
It'll
the next,
be-
like,
They're
2
like
months
checking
and-
out all the
Two
sound
clicks.
bites for it.
It'll be 2 clicks. Click, click.
There's actually 4 Joy-Cons now and not 2. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's so that 2 people can play the new WarioWare game. All right. We've got plenty of categories here. Have you guys looked at this list?
Yes.
I have. Yeah.
I just outed myself and said I did not look at a couple of these. I know you guys are big esports people. So
Debatable.
we'll
but-
we'll skip those though
Yeah.
because I might not share that same passion.
Yeah.
But there are tons and tons and tons of these categories. I found this tweet from the Game Awards. These are the most nominated games, just to put everyone on the same perspective. At 8 nominations, Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, 7 nominations, Marvel Spider-Man 2, 5 nominations, Hi-Fi Rush, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. 4 nominations, Cyberpunk 2077, the Phantom Liberty add-on to that, Final Fantasy 16, and then 3 nominations, Resident Evil 4 and Street Fighter 6. You tell me, from the very beginning, like, I thought Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, that it only got 5 nominations compared to Alan Wake 2 and Baldur's Gate 3. Kind of surprising, but I guess maybe we'll get into it with some of these other topics. So, let's start off looking at some of these things. And we kind of already talked about one of the first things. Instead of looking at this year, let's look beyond.
Love it.
With the most anticipated game. Because, Tiffany, you talked about Hades 2. Well, they're nominated right here with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, Star Wars Outlaws, and Tekken 8. Crazy. Do you guys want to... Let's predict this, right? Like, this should be a prediction show, right?
Yeah, this should totally be predictions.
Okay,
I'm
all
always
right, all
down
right.
to predict. I really think Hades 2 is going to win this one. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is just literally in our clutches.
It's so close.
It's so close. Like
Yeah.
it's like, isn't it like leap year day? Like February 29th?
February 29th? I think so, isn't it? Alex?
It is February 29th, 2024.
Yeah, so like it is just like at like we
know,
can
it's right
taste
there.
it. We can taste it. So
Yeah.
I don't know that it's that anticipated because it's like, oh man, it's
Mm-hmm.
coming like a train. And like a train, like a dragon. I don't know when that's supposed to come out. And that was a terrible segue. I recognize.
So it's funny you make that argument for 7 Rebirth because both Like a Dragon and Tekken 8 come out the same day, even earlier than Rebirth, on
Oh.
January 26th, 2024.
Oh,
Okay.
I didn't
So
recognize that.
if
man.
the argument follows,
Yes.
then it would only come down to Hades 2 or Star Wars Outlaws then.
I think so. And like, Star Wars Outlaws.
It made a big splash. This year. Like, do you guys remember, was it EA Play during Summer Game Fest or EA something? They released like a huge trailer and a huge gameplay, right? Am I thinking of the same thing?
Yeah, I don't know if it was at EA Play, but they did show like a 10-minute or so like uncut like gameplay segment of like raiding a
are,
base
like-
and then escaping.
People are foaming at the mouth for Star Wars Outlaws. Do I think that it has the stuff? I don't think so. Like, I think Final Fantasy VII Rebirth has it. Like, in my
you think
mind, that's
so?
where my
Okay.
vote is.
Okay.
I will tell you, Hades, though, my game of the year, Hades does not have a release date, so I think you're spot on. I think we're getting a trailer with a release date at Game Awards. But I still think Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, like, there's just something about this trilogy
That's
that is
true.
beyond anything else. That's where my vote is. Is your vote Hades then, Tiffany?
So my heart is with Rebirth, but I think my actual vote is with Hades 2. Like, I think the masses are going to vote Hades 2.
Alex, where you at?
It has to be Seventh Rebirth. There's no question, mostly because even though they are stealing from Like a Dragon a little bit, right? Cloud on the Segway, that they've taken that from Ichiban on a Segway. Literally, like a few months beforehand, they had this exact same shot of him riding one. So, Cloud is stealing that Segway action. But yeah, as you said, 7 is a historical RPG, back when it came out in 1997. And the fact that this is a continuation, right? The second of the trilogy. And some people might say, yes, it's the middle part. And you always know the middle part of a trilogy is usually the weakest, right? Because it's bridging that gap, right? Like the first part has a lot of good content. The second part might be a little bit of a lull. And then the third part is where we get the resolution of everything. But with what they've talked about, with what they've shown, I think there's a lot to expect to say this will be a good game at the very least, right? This is going to be a good game. Whether or not it lives up to hype, I guess the only hype is to see how they portray a lot of things in 3D, right? In this HD era. And based on what they've shown, I think they're going to meet all the expectations, right? Like, we get more of the characters. They basically showed every party member. If not, they won't be playable per se, but we got, specs of Sid, we got Vincent, we got Kate Sith. And now Red 13's a fully playable instead of just being a companion character like he was in part 1. And so I think,
and he's riding a chocobo, and
exactly,
that's like
and it's
the zeitgeist of what is that?
It's not bad for his back, he doesn't have back problems. But I think 7 Rebirth encapsulates a lot of saying, also proving to maybe haters out there, Square Enix can develop this game, right? This isn't going to be like 30 years to make all 3 parts. Remake came out in 2020. We're getting Rebirth in 2024. We're going to see the final part 3 before the end of this generation, like very easily.
Oh, yeah.
I think they can make it out. So I'm excited.
Launch title, baby. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm feeling. It feels right to me to be like the PS6 starting. Like, I think that just the timing might be perfect. I can't wait. It's honestly probably my most anticipated, even with Hades being awesome and one of my favorite games of all time. It's between those two for me, but I think Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, that it's right there, makes us just want to grab it.
Okay. I do have one like personal anecdote in that I remember when Final Fantasy VII Remake came out, I hustled to actually roll credits on that game before I started my master's program. And I'm literally I'm completing my master's program this December, or like this.
It's meant to be.
You know what I mean? Like,
it's meant to
and
be.
now
That's what it is.
Rebirth is coming out.
For you.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god, like I can go into this game uninhibited.
Can I take it a step further, Tiffany?
Yes.
You went to do your master's because you were remaking yourself. And now when you're graduating, you're rebirthing yourself to the land of gaming.
My gosh!
Because you'll finally play co-op games with us after you graduate.
Matt, that was beautiful. We got to clip that out.
And then
that was beautiful.
And then if it's like Final Fantasy Reunion or whatever the last one is, like, then we'll just all see each other and that's it.
Yeah.
All right.
And then our cycle's complete.
Cycle's complete.
That'll be the next time we meet in person.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Votes are in.
This is the high of the podcast. I'm done.
It is.
I should sign myself out of here.
All right. You can't sign off yet though, because we've got plenty more categories to guess. Okay. So, best adaptation. I think this one is more interesting than I thought it was going to be this year. So your 5 nominees: Castlevania Nocturne, Gran Turismo, The Last of Us, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, and Twisted Metal. Have you guys... So I've only seen The Last of Us and Super Mario Bros. Did you guys watch Gran Turismo?
Nope.
Alex, I thought you were going to do it, man.
There was a possibility, and then the timing didn't work out, and then it just passed me by, like a fast car. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to get to the theaters to see it. But I'm hopeful, it comes on some streaming service. Like, this is one of those that's primed to be like, we're a few months out. Like, where is it? Netflix, Max? Like, give it to me on something. Peacock.
I know. Yeah.
What if it is on Peacock?
Twisted Metal is on Peacock.
Yeah, but
right?
Twisted Metal. If it's on
That's
Peacock,
true.
I will sign up for a month right now and watch both of those things.
You know what?
Honestly, Twisted Metal looked funny in the small clips that we got.
Okay. I'm sure Peacock has like a 2-week free trial, Alex. You can sign up for that. I've already used my Peacock free trial. Like
even better
like
than
2 years
I
ago.
can get my Anthony Mackie and Orlando Bloom all at once.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. The 1-2 punch. Alex, are you choosing one of the two things that you've watched here?
Yes,
Or you think
I
some of these
am.
other ones have the stuff?
So I've heard a lot of good things about Castlevania Nocturne. I feel like a lot of the Castlevania just shows have gone well received because there's been several over the past few years. Like, people always talk about how well they, like, in terms of as an adaptation, they are very good.
Mm-hmm.
I personally haven't watched it, / I don't really have a history with Castlevania, so it's hard for me to speak to the actual strength of their adaptations. But based on the two I've watched, which is the Super Mario Bros. Movie and the Last of Us Max show, that I think very simply, when you're comparing those two alone, it's obviously Last of Us. And I think it's a lot because as much as the game, right, which originally came out in I think it was 2011 was the first Last of Us, or was it 2013? I forget, either 2011 or 2013. That seeing that story adapted and how they kept basically like 90% of the story intact, and obviously they added a few things that didn't occur in the game for the show or for the sake of the show, that the fact that the story holds up so well goes to show that even more than a decade ago, how great of a story this was back then, and that you really didn't need to touch it up for now. And they did improve it, right? Because some of the things that weren't in the game that were in the show were some of the best parts as well, because it was something that also you really could only relate to, right, with this just being portrayed on screen. I think there was actually a stronger effect of those episodes than it would be if you played it. And so just comparing that to Super Mario Bros., which was a great retelling and had a lot of fun nods, right? Like, we got, spoilers, but we got Rainbow Road, we got
Great
the
time.
Luma.
Great.
We
Such a good
have
time.
Great character.
right, the classic DK v Mario rivalry. We had, Princess Peach riding her motorcycle, and even despite all that, I think Mario was more of a kind of nostalgia trip, like going through all these things, which was a great time. But if you like want to get down to like the actual journey and like trying to resonate with the characters, like The Last of Us with Bella Ramsey, with Pedro Pascal, like they did such a good job in those characters. So definitely looking forward to season 2. Now that the strike is finally over, we can get to it.
I'm with Alex. I think Last of Us wins the best adaptation. It was just, the acting was phenomenal. The special effects were really good. The storytelling was really good. Each week, well, I didn't watch it week to week. I kind of watched it like every other week, would kind of watch 2 episodes at a time, but I was very much clamoring for the next part, even though I knew what the story or how the story would go. I was also watching it with one friend who has knew nothing about the show. And so watching her react to it was also a fun time. And Pedro Pascal is just a great
So good.
actor. Yeah. And Bella Ramsey was really good too. Like, I
The
really
daddy.
believed I really believe their relationship. Yeah, the daddy is a state of mind, and he's
he's the daddy.
no, but he's also said that being a daddy is a state of mind. So
okay.
yeah,
but
I'm
he's
quoting
embodied it so much that he's the daddy.
But I think that's it. And I mean, I love Super Mario Bros. The movie. That movie really was so joyful, so colorful, so fun. I can't wait. It's coming out on Netflix. I'm gonna watch it again. Great time.
It needed more Pauline.
Here's the thing. I think I'm with you all. I'm choosing The Last of Us for best adaptation. It was a direct adaptation. And to me, who I never played the game, I need to play the game. It was awesome. Experiencing it for the first time, had no recollection of anything that was happening. So for me, it was great. My wife, she loved it too. Not a gamer, loved the story, was addicted to it. We went to like for one holiday, we were visiting family, and a person that I just met from different walk of life was talking to me about The Last of Us. Like, it is an adaptation that is like gone past gaming, and so I do think it's going to deserve this. I will say though, Super Mario Bros. Movie, fantastic time. Like, taking something that so many people know Mario. So many people know the dun 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 dun. Like, there are so many people that do not play games that know that soundbite, and it worked. Like, it's one of the best movies of the year, and I think that they did a lot with a super well-known IP, and I think they did really well at it. Illumination, animation, like, fantastic. Fantastic. I can't wait, and I hope they have. I know they're planning on doing like a shared universe. That sounds amazing. Make a Super Smash Brothers movie, and I will be there day one.
Oh my gosh, I'm ready for that.
We'll be there.
Yes,
day one.
Day one.
All right.
Is this the beginning of the Nintendo Cinematic Universe?
Yes.
Yeah, the NCU.
That it culminates with Super Smash Brothers.
That's right.
It's gonna take us a decade to get there.
And Master Hand.
Yeah, and the crazy hand, the one that's like all fidgety. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be great. And then we're going to find out they're all just little action figures from the very beginning. All right, moving on to Best RPG. This is some big hitters. We've got some genre-based ones. We've got Best Action Game, Best Action Adventure Game, but this one, Best RPG. We have Baldur's Gate 3, Final Fantasy 16, Lies of P, Sea of Stars, and Starfield. You know, Alex, I want to send this to you, all right? Because
good call.
I asked you on the last podcast, because you just said, hey, you know, I played Sea of Stars, which, hey, if you want to hear what Alex thinks about Sea of Stars, check out our YouTube. He has a little mini review for Sea of Stars. It was great. Great little listen if you got a minute and a half or so. But I asked you, I said, listen, you're all about Octopath Traveler 2. You're all about Sea of Stars. Which one is the best? And I just so happened to only see one of those names here.
And
are you bothered?
Yeah, that's what I want to talk about. I think that is the biggest snub. In that also, I think if my memory serves me, Octopath Traveler 2 did not get any nominees at all.
Nope.
Not
Sure
music,
didn't.
not art direction, not even RPG, which is this category that we're talking about. And I would say that at the very least, it would deserve a nomination in this category, if not the others as well. And I'm a little bit worried if there's recency bias in these nominations, right? If we look at it kind of across the board with a lot of these categories.
Yeah, I was going to ask that too.
That there's some things from early in the year that, you know, such as Octopath Traveler 2, which came out in February, right? So we're already 9 months out. You know, you could have had a baby in this time frame. And it, you know, it didn't get a nomination. And I would say that definitely in this case, it deserves it a spot over Sea of Stars. As good of a game as Sea of Stars is, I really feel like that's more of a kind of like wet your palate type of game, right? It's like, I don't know if I like RPGs. Let me try one out. And I think Sea of Stars is that great like beginner RPG. But then looking to the caliber of some of these other RPGs, such as Baldur's Gate 3 or even Final Fantasy 16, heck, even Lies of P, that these are more so kind of right aiming for those loftier goals of saying, if you love this genre, like these are going to be a good time. They have a lot of depth to each of them, and I feel like Octopath Traveler 2 kind of falls in line with that, with its brand, you know, multiple characters, multiple storylines, and even you know, I would say this definitely. I would sub out Sea of Stars over Starfield, because even though I haven't personally played Starfield, I heard a lot of feedback, you know, in the community about it to say that maybe Starfield isn't everyone's cup of tea, but I feel there's at least more redeeming qualities there over Sea of Stars. So I would say Sea of Stars should not have been nominated. As good of an RPG it is, Octopath Traveler 2 deserves that spot just for the nomination. Not to say it would win, because definitely this is a hard category to win. So good luck, I would say, to the four of these. You know, I won't say which one I'm leaving out, but of these 5 nominees, I think 4 of them are going to have a close battle.
I mean, here's the thing. Can I say something though? Like, is Lies of P an RPG? I have not played it. It's downloaded on my console because it's on Game Pass. But it's a Souls game. I would have assumed
Are
that this
Souls
would be
games not
more
RPGs?
action adventure.
Didn't Elden Ring get Best RPG nominated when it came out like last year? I don't
Yeah,
remember.
I'm
don't
pretty
know.
sure it is an RPG because I feel like when you say
just-
RPG, a lot of games have RPG elements these days, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
basically leveling up and like investing skill points kind of thing. And I guess maybe equipment if you want to go a little bit farther, right? Like you're changing certain parts off your character, kind of tailoring it to your playstyle.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the official descriptions. I think on the Game Awards website they have little blurbs about every category that kind of distinguishes to say, best family game or best fighting game, and then specifically kind of has a description of what the category is. But I would say that it fits the bill. I mean, it definitely
Okay.
feels kind of strange, but I would say it definitely deserves it, like, to be here. Or, it could be a thing of when they're doing the nominees, maybe some people were more willing to nominate it for this category over action RPG,
Not the
action
other.
adventure game, seeing kind of the heavy hitters in that category as well. So if anything, at least it got a spot on one of the categories.
Okay, I'm going to tell you right now that in 2022 last year, Elden Ring in fact won Best RPG at the Game Awards.
Okay. All right. Yeah, like Elden Ring, that was a different case in my opinion.
Okay.
Just from what I've heard, and this is just completely secondary. I just don't know how much differing your runs could be. And Elden Ring, you could have vast different playthroughs based upon your style.
Okay.
But maybe I need to play it, which it's on my list. It's on my list to do by the end of this.
Yeah, man,
because
needs to go through Lies of P to see the truth.
That's right. That's right. Because I think for me, and like I think Baldur's Gate 3, this is its category. Like I think
okay.
I have not played it, but from what people have told, I would love to play it. I don't have a PC, so I don't really want to play this type of game on PS5, but I can respect it. I've heard really great things about it. I think a lot of people that will be voting love Baldur's Gate 3, and it has a good running for the rest of the year. So that's my guess. But I'm glad to see Starfield, great Western RPG. We can talk a little bit more about that later, probably in our Game of the Year conversations. Sea of Stars, good JRPG. Final Fantasy 16 was another one of those things where I think its biggest thing is like, is this an RPG compared to some of the other Final Fantasies? That aside, love that game. So I'm pretty happy with this category, except for that Octopath Traveler 2 snub. Terrible. That secondary snub I get. Anyway. Alex, did you say you were voting for?
He didn't.
You
I actually
didn't?
didn't.
No, he didn't. That's why I was going to ask him what he.
I do agree with you, Matt. Even though I haven't played it, I've seen a lot of Act 1 of Baldur's Gate 3. And based on what I've seen, and kind of, I get the idea, right? Because also Baldur's Gate also doesn't appeal to me as like a genre I'd really get into. But seeing the variability, seeing the choice, seeing the actual fact, right, like of a role-playing game, I think definitely Baldur's Gate 3 beats out the rest of these just because of the flexibility, right? Like this is a game that lets you live out your D&D fantasy. It's you create your character from the start. You make all the choices on your own, all the dialogue. You can kill anyone you want. You can recruit anybody you want. And I think that like it doesn't get more quintessential RPG than that. And not to say just because it's that type of game means it should win, but also to the fact that, right, it is a quality game. Despite I heard a lot of things, right, as you get later into the game, more and more bugs appear. But I guess it's that thing of, right, what game doesn't launch with bugs these days? And also the fact that maybe they're banking on a lot of people from not being able to get that far just because it's so long. And so they were making sure that front half was really polished. And then they're like, don't worry, guys, right? The game is still playable, but we'll make sure to get through to the later parts and patch it up for you guys in a timely fashion. So I think besides that point of maybe bugs appearing later in the game, I think definitely it is very strong for this category, and we'll take the W.
I agree with you guys. BG3.
Nice. All on the same page for that. Next one, which I think will be a little bit more of an interesting conversation, because I think Baldur's Gate 3 is just like, it's a behemoth. When it's in a category, I don't know. I'm scared of it. Anyway, best action adventure game. We have Alan Wake 2, Marvel's Spider-Man 2, Resident Evil 4, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Basically all of them sequels to games, except I guess Resident Evil 4 being the sole fourth installation. Everything else being number 2 of their series.
It's the sequel to itself, though.
Right.
It's the remake of itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Resident Evil 4, no matter what year of gaming we're talking about, it's probably there, because anytime it's remade, it's going to be on everybody's list. How many of these have you all played?
Only
Tiffany, you've
one.
played Tears of the Kingdom.
Yes.
And then Alex, you've played Spider-Man 2. And then I've played Tears of the Kingdom, Spider-Man 2, and just as of a couple days ago, I am playing Alan Wake 2. I played through and platinumed Alan Wake Remastered, played all the DLC, got 100% of all trophies.
Wow.
And loved it.
Really?
Loved it.
Okay.
Yeah. I had started it a while ago, like years ago on Xbox, and then just kind of lost track. I think I was trying to go for collectibles too much, and when you get to like the platinum grind, and then you just like get overwhelmed, and then you miss something, and you're like, no, I can't do this again. That's where I was at, but I just played it for fun and then cleaned it up like I was supposed to, and it was amazing. Alan Wake 2, too early to know. Like, I'm literally between like the second and third mission. But from what I know, best action adventure game, I'm going to go... I feel like you got to go Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom.
Really?
Like, yeah. Like, I think enough people will go for it. Like, it's not on best action game. Like, as far as the genre games, this is where Tears of the Kingdom, and I feel like the whole choose your own adventure, everything else being very, very linear, I think people are going to grab onto that. And so I think just trying to think into the mind of other people, it's not necessarily my list. Mm-hmm. I think if I had to choose today, I'd probably pick Alan Wake 2 or Marvel Spider-Man 2 over it. But I think Tears of the Kingdom walks away with the dub.
Wow.
Obviously, you're not going to choose it. So
no.
which one are you going to choose?
So guys, I have not started Spider-Man 2. Like, it is.
Oh man.
I know, it's been almost a month since
Still?
it's come out. I still haven't. Yeah, it's supposed to be a reward for me when I'm done with school, but I feel like I'm leaning towards. I feel like Spider-Man 2 would win, from what I can tell from the vibes.
Okay. Yeah.
That's just
great game.
Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. I didn't fin. I mean, like, it's a tale as old as time.
Neither did I.
Didn't finish it.
Neither
How many
did
temples did you do, Matt?
Just one. I was
same.
Yeah. This is what happened with the original Breath of the Wild. Like, this exact same thing. I need to get back to it, but I just get so overwhelmed by these open world games.
Yeah, totally same. I had a good time, though. I played about, like, 40 hours of it. And then it was just one, like... I think Alex literally saw me the last moment I booted that game. I rage quit after I dropped a green crystal in a lake. And I couldn't get it back.
Yeah,
and I had to...
her makeshift plane was not stable enough. And the when she landed, it fell off and rolled in. So the only way to get the crystal was to reset it back to the start.
Yeah, and I was like, I can't do this again. And it was like 10 p.m. or something, and I was like, I'm gonna put this down, and then I never picked it back up. Especially after a coworker said, "Oh yeah, I'm saving all those crystal missions for later," and I was like, those crystal missions? There's more than one. Get your crystal to a specific place? No, thank you. And
yeah, there's so much in that game.
Yeah.
Okay, one for Tears of the Kingdom, one for Spider-Man. Alex, Going somewhere different?
Yeah, man, we're all over the place on this. So as you pointed out, all of these are sequels. And so I think this comes down to the strength of how well or how good of a sequel is this compared to its original release. And funny enough, from what I've heard a lot about these things, it's many of them are very much like their predecessors. It's right. It's that thing that these are more of what you enjoyed, right? It's more Alan Wake. It's more Spider-Man. It's more Star Wars Jedi. It's more Zelda. It's more Resident Evil 4. And because of that, I think it comes down to it has to be the strength of the original release.
Okay.
And so my vote's for Resident Evil 4.
Okay.
I think there's a lot, like, people in the horror genre. I think some people might say this is one of the pinnacles of a like horror survival game in terms of, like, even though I know it does lean a little bit more action, especially compared to the earlier Resident Evils, but just with how much people always say, man, Resident Evil 4 was so good, going through that storyline, people always talk about, it's like you have the village, especially in the beginning, right, with all the villagers, you have the castle part, you have all these moments that even for me, as someone that is only in kind of the industry, right, just by like paying attention to things, but have never played it, I know what they're talking about when they say these parts, right? Like, I've seen these in videos like here and there, and I understand to say, oh yeah, when they talk about the village, I know all about that, right? Walking in, seeing these villagers, right, with their pitchforks raised, and suddenly they start slowly walking towards you and being like, oh yeah, that is such an iconic encounter, like, in a horror genre. And I think based on what I heard, right, of the improvements, this is remade in Capcom's RE engine. They've done all the Resident Evil remakes in this engine. They added a parry with the knife, so now you can just, deflect
just
attacks.
kick it.
Yeah, and that wasn't in the original game, and that's like some people think it's like, oh, you might think it's broken, but it's actually such a great improvement over the original. And I think, right, compared to the other games, that we all have these refinements. Spider-Man, they condensed a lot of the special abilities down into shortcuts so you can access everything really easily. There's no, weapon wheel system like the first game had, so that problem's cleared up. Star Wars Jedi, I think that's more of the same, but I heard that there was a lot of performance issues across the board, console and PC, and so that kind of had a rocky road. And then with Zelda, even as you guys mentioned, it felt like that game was a lot more retreading than it seemed, right? It's the same Hyrule, yes, they added the depths and everything, but that's also just another version of Hyrule, right, with some different changes to, like, where you can go. And so it felt, even though mechanically you're traversing the world differently, you're in that same setting. Maybe that familiarness was too much. And so despite that, I think Resident Evil 4, despite it being so familiar, overcame that level of saying, yes, this is mostly the same as what I remembered from the 20 years ago when the original game came out, but it has so much vast improvements, and it's such a fun game to play. So that's where I'm putting my vote.
All right.
Okay.
We'll see. The battle of the sequels. We will see what wins. Best action game. A bunch more sequels. Armored Core 6. Fires of Rubicon. I don't know why. My brain just did not look at that VI and tell me a number.
It's
I looked at that.
High.
Oh, right. Dead Island 2, Ghost Runner 2, Hi-Fi Rush, and Remnant 2. This is all going to have to be feel, because I don't know if you guys have played any of these.
Nope.
But I kind of feel like we got to talk about this, because let me tell you about a game. A game that I thought might be Game of the Year this year, but too bad it came out in like January or February, called Hi-Fi Rush. This game, I'm telling you, it's got... I don't know if it's going to win this. I'm going to say it's going to win this because I want my heart to win here. Because Hi-Fi Rush was a fantastic action game. It's an action rhythm game. So it's very similar to... it almost has like a Devil May Cry feel to it. But it's also, you get powered up if you hit along to the beat. So it almost has a little bit of Hyrule...
Oh, Curse of the
Necromancer?
Dance of
Curse
the Necromancer. Or Curse.
Yeah, either way.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're both right. It could be Dance and the Curse of the Necromancer.
Crypt of the Necromancer.
Yeah, so it's neither of us. Yeah. So the Crypt of the Necromancer. It is a joy for someone who is not into those rhythm action games, it was awesome. And I think that I want them to get all the flowers that they can. So I hope that they win Best Action Game. So, Feel Alone. What are you guys thinking?
I honestly, when I saw that list, I was like, Hi-Fi Rush came out this year? Like,
Yeah,
I straight up
so
thought
long ago.
it came out last year. I don't have enough, like, what's the phrase? I don't have enough in the game to say anything about that. Like, I don't want to pick because I just don't know.
What? No, you got
Stake in the
to. You got to
game.
pick something. You
That's
know
what
what I
it's called.
mean?
I can't remember if people liked Armored Core. Like,
You know,
that's,
I can't either.
like,
I can't either. Remember when they announced that and
People
Alex
lost
was
their
like,
mind.
From Software is going to win Game of the Year 2 years in a row?
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe.
But it's not
And
even,
then I never played it.
Armored Core isn't even listed as Game of the Year. I don't know.
Spoilers.
I'm just gonna, oh, sorry. I guess I'll
okay.
vote for Armored Core. If you're making me
Okay.
pick, if you're
I'm
making,
making you pick.
If you're making
Yeah.
me pick, I'm gonna say Armored Core.
Okay. Alex, what are you feeling?
Because it is very much similar to an indie game that came out a couple years ago, right before the pandemic, that I really enjoyed and I felt like didn't really get any kind of notoriety. And that game is No Straight Roads, where it's almost the exact same game as Hi-Fi Rush. It is a kind of linear level based rhythm action game where the enemies and environment kind of play to the beat. And there's a lot of, you responding in terms of not necessarily comboing with the beat as well, but also being able to dodge attacks and like kind of anticipate certain things happening based on how the music is playing. That I have to vote for Hi-Fi Rush because I feel like Hi-Fi Rush is that kind of like a little bit higher budget version of what No Straight Roads wanted to be. And I just wanted to shout out No Straight Roads because it was designed by the lead gameplay designer of Final Fantasy 15. And so after 15, he left and created his own studio in Malaysia, and this was his studio's first game. And so
cool.
because it kind of feels like to me, even though these are two completely separate studios, that this is like a spiritual successor to No Straight Roads, I got to vote for it. Because if No Straight Roads didn't win anything then, like I want Hi-Fi Rush to win in its stead now.
Okay. There we go. All right, we've got the 4 big ones. But before the 4 big ones, there's Best Independent Game. I don't want to just like make you pick in, everything. So what if I tell you the nominees and then you all let me know? Because I don't know if we've played many of these games. All right. So this might say more about us than these nominees. But Best Independent Game: Cocoon, Dave the Diver, Dredge, Sea of Stars, and Viewfinder. What are you feeling, Tiffany?
See, I picked Cocoon.
Did you play Dredge yet?
No, I didn't play Dredge. It's too scary. It's too spoopy. I don't want it. I feel
Alex,
like
did
people
you play Dredge?
People really liked
No.
Viewfinder. People really liked Viewfinder, but you're really liking Dredge. But then also, I picked Cocoon for my fantasy critic, and it got me some points.
Okay.
So,
I've heard great things about Cocoon. Do you want to just shot in the dark this?
Yeah, I'm
We
gonna
can
shot in
move
the
on.
dark. I'm gonna just
Okay.
say Viewfinder. I'm gonna say
Okay.
Viewfinder.
Alex, what are you thinking?
Man, this is actually really tough because I think a lot of these kind of similar, like they all do a certain thing well, which is, I mean, probably a reason why they're all independently nominated because they each have their kind of like main drive of like, if you like this type of thing, this game does it. I will say though, I kind of disagree with Dave the Diver being on here, mostly because it doesn't really feel like an independent game in a way because it's published by a big like AAA publisher in Nexon. And so I kind of discount it personally for that fact. So I can't really put a vote for it in good faith. So in that case, even though I've only played one of these games, honestly, I think I'll have to give it to Dredge. Mostly
There we
because
go.
as much as I haven't played it, I feel like from what I've seen, it has a lot of intrigue. And I think it definitely kind of goes in the route of this is as an independent game, right? It does things that a lot of like a AAA game couldn't do. You know, there's a lot of strangeness to this, a lot of kind of like quiet, and then it goes deeper, you know, so to speak, right, into those more like horror, psychological elements. And I feel like it's that thing where it's such an interesting concept. And right, like all of these have interesting concepts, except maybe Sea of Stars. But like Cocoon has this like weird multi-layered puzzle element where you're like puzzles within puzzles, and you take like one puzzle from one layer, you like move it out, and so like that's crazy. And then Viewfinder's the same thing where it's like using your environment that's a puzzle within a puzzle to solve something. I don't know, but based on my intrigue, I think that's probably the biggest driver. What I would say would be Dredge, just from a face level value.
It's got to be Dredge. Let me
Okay.
just tell you, like it is. It's my favorite independent game that I played this year. It is just a great time. It is spooky. But Tiffany, I want you to play it. And it might, if it's $19.99, I will Venmo you that money right now, and you go buy it, and you at least try it, because it is amazing. It really is. Like, it is a Tiffany game. I promise you.
It's
yeah,
so
like
scary.
It's got a little spooky layer
like
to it.
I will say, so I did hear about this. I'm not sure if it's tied to the paid DLC or not. I'm pretty sure it's not, because it would have made sense. There is an accessibility mode that disables the scary part. So
Okay.
if you, I don't know how this affects anything
Could you
else in the
imagine if
game.
they put that accessibility issue behind paid DLC?
Yeah, I don't know.
We
but
would
yeah,
hear all about that.
it did not come out with the launch of the game, but in one of the updates, they had an accessibility mode to kind of like get rid of the aggressive, spooky aspects.
It is.
Like,
It does
so
get scary.
Spoopy.
Here's the thing, Tiffany, though. It's very scary when you're an itty bitty boat. But then you add onto that boat, you start getting bigger fish, and you become this person where it's like, I'm not afraid of the dark. The dark should be afraid of me because I got these high beams in the back, and they're going to like blast anything away. It has probably my favorite sound design.
Oh.
Personally, like I think that it does a lot there. It has a lot of really good for the type of design that it has, the art design of it. It's not like the prettiest game, but it's almost got like this soul shadedness to it.
It's
It
stylized.
definitely has atmosphere, though.
Right?
Yeah, it's very stylized. It's got a great atmosphere. I really enjoy the gameplay loop. It is fun. It was a fun platinum to get. It was not hard or grindy, and I just really enjoyed it. I think it's everything that I love about small indie titles, like a breath of fresh air, just like a nice palate cleanser in between like huge AAA games. So definitely give it a try. I hope it wins it. I do want to try Cocoon. It's something that's on my mind. Honestly, I'm looking at this list, and these are games that I plan on picking up. Out of everything else, these are games that I plan on picking up and playing and being a little bit more informed by the Game Awards. Because guess what comes this week, everybody? PlayStation Portal. That's right.
Oh.
It's coming. My remote play, it is coming, and I'm looking at
Did
these
you
games
order
and I'm
it?
like, yeah.
Dang.
It's shipped.
Oh.
It's somewhere.
Dang.
Who knows where it's at? It's not with me.
UPS
But these
has
are
it somewhere.
probably, these are the games that I'm definitely eyeing, because I want to watch some TV and I want to like have these little puzzle games just right there. That sounds great to me. So I hope Dredge wins it, though. Yeah, nothing else I can say about it. Cool. All right, so now we got the top 4 categories, right? We got Game of the Year, Best Game Direction, Best Narrative, and Best Art Direction. Starting with Best Art Direction, we have Alan Wake 2, Hi-Fi Rush, Lies of P, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. This is an interesting one, because this is not, this is not best graphics. This is not most realistic. This is best art direction. So I feel like all 3 of us could take this completely different ways. Where are you leaning towards, Tiffany?
So I really like Mario Wonder and I like Hi-Fi Rush. So, because Wonder, like, sometimes I think to myself, how different can you really make Mario? Like, but
Yeah.
like when I look at Wonder, I recognize that that's Mario Wonder. You know what I mean? Like if we played a game where you showed me like a screenshot or still from like a bunch of different levels and all these Mario games, you asked me to like pick them out, I can pick out Wonder and probably Mario
Yeah.
Odyssey. Anything else, I'm gonna have no clue. But I do like that it has a specific art direction. However, I think Hi-Fi Rush is gonna win this one. Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom is very samey, to Breath
I
of the
really
Wild.
hope it doesn't get it. I really hope it doesn't get it. I'm actually kind of surprised it did get nominated. I'm not trying to throw shade, but like we just talked about Dredge, and like Dredge, I did feel it's kind of like what you're talking about. Like you see a screen grab, oh, I never played Dredge, but that's probably Dredge.
Yeah.
Like, you see Tears of the Kingdom, it's like, oh, that's
Tears
Breath of the Wild.
or Breath of the Wild? Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm with you. I think it will be Hi-Fi Rush, and I hope it is, because I think that art direction is what it has going on, that and sound design. And for the same very reasons that you talked about. Like, it looks like a comic book. It plays like a comic book. And I think that can go a long way. Alex, where are you leaning?
Yeah, I'm leaning also towards Hi-Fi Rush. I think with its reliance on right music and this more like lighthearted comedy tone, like the cell shaded kind of like pop, like comic, like I guess I don't know how else you would call it, the like whatever that art style, right? Like the dimpling art style, like that sort of effect. Like everything lends itself, especially to the type of music it has. It definitely is one of those games where I'm like, man, I definitely should go back and like get this on PC or something just to try it out, because I feel like I missed out. And so I would say because of that, it really leans into it. Not to say that the other games aren't there. I do really like Lies of P, even though some people might say it's dreary, right? It looks a lot like Bloodborne, right? Which is obviously heavily inspired by. But when you think about its setting, this is kind of that old, English / kind of original version of Pinocchio, right? Which is much darker than like the Disneyified version of Pinocchio that I think it does that setting really well, right? Like these are puppets. There's puppets in this world. They're creepy. And I think just the presentation of how they move, especially, and how they're rendered. And obviously when they break apart, right, it's not blood coming out of them. It's oil. Like you have black oil spilling out. Like it does so many things so well to put you in that world. And maybe it's only due to the fact that it feels so dreary because of how well it's done. I'd rather go to Hi-Fi Rush since it's a little bit more happy. And so, if anything, I think it's really kind of a coin flip, but I'll just say Hi-Fi Rush for the sake of it.
Cool. Yeah, we'll see. It's so weird having that as a category, because I feel like people will take that so many different ways. But I kind of agree with all what you guys are saying. So going to best narrative, best story between the 5, Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Cyberpunk 2077, Phantom Liberty, Final Fantasy 16, and Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Alex, what are you thinking? Hit you back to back.
Oh, man.
It's a tough one.
This is a tough category, mostly because I haven't played 3 of these games. And so it's hard to say. But I know for a fact, sadly, I will say the 2 games I did play, I don't think they make the cut. I don't think 16 or Spider-Man 2 make this, win this category. I'll say at least confidently that. Mostly because while I'm not saying they're bad stories, I'll say that in terms of a narrative, in a way, they kind of fall to the trope of this is what a Final Fantasy story is type of thing, and then this is what a Spider-Man story is. And so even though they're good stories in their own right, a little bit it kind of leads to the same road, right? Like as we talked about before, what's Final Fantasy without killing a god or godlike being, right? It's like that's kind of the trope of every game. And so it's not to say that's a bad thing, but it's something you expect, right? Otherwise it's not Final Fantasy. So it's kind of this like weird dichotomy of saying, well, you're saying it's the same because it has this and therefore it's not innovative, but then if you say it doesn't have it, therefore it's not it. So, and I'm not saying that at all, right? It's basically coming down to, I don't think I'm saying any Final Fantasy will never win this, but I think because of the sameness, I have to give it to one of the other 2 or one of the other 3. And I guess in particular, it's the only one I know the most about because I feel like Phantom Liberty and Alan Wake 2, maybe just due to how long they've been out, I just didn't hear a lot about. So I have to give it to Baldur's Gate 3. Also because it's really your story, right? Like I love the premise because the game starts out with you basically having one of those worm things, right, get sucked into your eyeball. Spoilers for the opening cutscene, and kind of the front part of that game is figuring out how to get the parasite removed before you turn into one of the, and I forgot the name of the creatures, but like the tentacle face creatures. Like, it's not Cthulhu, but they look like,
Cthulhu? Okay.
it's like you think
Okay.
they look like Cthulhu, but they have a name, like that type of being.
Oh, gotcha.
And so like the thread of the beginning of that game is, let's get the parasite out before we turn into that thing, right? That type of thing. And so I love the premise of that story, right? Because obviously you're with a group of characters and that's your only connection to these people, right? You have no other allegiance besides the fact that you're all infected with this thing. And so it makes sense that, you would only be banding together, right, to achieve this goal. But then, obviously it turns out to whatever the end goal of the story being, which I do not know. I do not know how Baldur's Gate 3 ends. So maybe the ending's really bad and therefore it shouldn't win this category. But ending aside, I think BG3 should take it.
Wow. I didn't even really think about Baldur's Gate, because when I looked at this list, I was like, well, I've only played Final Fantasy 16 and I really liked Final Fantasy 16 story and I thought it was compelling and I really cared about the characters, so I'm voting from my heart this time with Final Fantasy 16. I don't know that it's going to win, but I want it to.
Yeah. There's a lot of those out there because I do feel like Final Fantasy 16 at the very beginning, I thought, yeah, this should be my vote. Like, I think there is something compelling about that story. I enjoyed it. You kept me along on the ride. And when things got really complicated, they had that really great accessibility feature that was just a feature of the game, which is you had those tutoring sessions where she talked about the lay of the land and walked you through what was happening and all the politics. And so you don't have to be Game of Thrones and just smacked in the face by George R.R. Martin. They will walk you through this step by step. And I thought they did a good job. That being said, though,
active time lore.
Correct. That being said, my vote from just a few hours playing it,
wow,
I can already tell best narrative will be Alan Wake 2.
Dang.
It's gut. Maybe it falls apart in the next 20 hours, which it definitely can and definitely might. But there is something about Alan Wake 2. It's a 2 protagonist story. You follow, I don't know how much you guys have heard about it.
Very little.
You follow a detective alongside of Alan Wake 2. They are kind of working in synergy together. But Saga Anderson, who is the FBI agent, she goes into her mind palace, and when she interviews people, she basically has a bulletin board where she just has pictures and strings attached to those pictures. So you literally have to, when you're talking to a person and it just seems like an NPC and maybe they have throwaway lines, she is registering those as clues. So you go back to your mind palace and you're connecting these clues that you picked up on, and maybe you actually didn't pick up on it in your conversation when you're listening to this NPC, but they make it so you feel smart and it makes you feel like a detective. And I think it is fun. A really cool way. It's just very inventive, and I think they use that to build a really deep narrative. Even a few hours in, I see that as being a really strong contender. I think this will be Alan Wake 2's biggest award potentially this year, but I think this is a good one for them.
He sees the threads, they're all.
I see together. The threads. That's right. Best game direction. This is sometimes known as the runner-up award, but a lot of times this is just saying, hey, which game studio directed a really good game? I think we have had years where the same studio actually wins Game of the Year, but in my mind, I always kind of fall back to that. So we have Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Marvel Spider-Man 2, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. I think game direction, I think this is a tough one because I think all of these have a really good direction to them. I do think Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom, in my mind, has what it takes for best game direction. I think they could have kept with the same powers, them going to different powers, them having powers that were inventive. Not only inventive, but you being able to do whatever you can with making an airplane or making a boat or making a freaking bridge that's like 100 logs deep, this game will not crash on this stupid piece of hardware that is way outdated. It is not crashing.
Switch.
And to me, that shows this is really great game direction. Like, these are people that have tried the physics game, which not usually does not pan out. And I feel like it really did pan out. And I think it was a good time. Even though I got bogged down with the open world, that says nothing about the game. It's just something about me, honestly. So I think Tears of the Kingdom wins game direction this year.
This is a tough one because, like, I'm also looking at this list and it's almost identical to Game of the Year.
Yeah.
So, I'm a little bit surprised that Mario Wonder is on here. I'm gonna be real. Like, I'm surprised, but both of you have played it and both of you have sung its praises.
I love that game. I love that game.
Do you really love that game?
I love that game. Honestly. This is going to be a spoiler for our Game of the Year talks, but it is up there. I won't tell you where it's at, but it's there.
This is rough for me because I own 3 of these games. I have Wonder, Spider-Man 2, and Tears of the Kingdom.
You own 3 of those games, and you've only really played
1. Well, okay, I have access to all 3 of them. Let's just put it that way.
All right.
But game direction, I might actually. You know what? I'm gonna do a cheeky answer. I'm gonna say Mario Brothers Wonder. Maybe it really just like.
Gosh, I hope you're right.
It brought joy back. It's like super cute. Elephant Mario. The levels are accessible. It's a good time. You can play it in like a week or 2, apparently. I'm gonna go with Mario Wonder because it's also, like I said, it's different enough. Like the art direction, just I'm gonna go with that. I'm locking it in.
Boom, Alex.
So I don't want to frame this like it's the runner-up, winner that won't win Game of the Year and therefore can win this, because I also do very much agree, right, Matt, with your explanation with Tears of the Kingdom, like how they are able to create a sequel to Breath of the Wild without repeating too much besides the terrain, right? And just creating a brand new game in the way of how you interact, which makes it a new experience and very enjoyable to play. But if we're going alongside kind of the runner-up thing where I'm like, man, if it doesn't have a chance, I'm like, for me right now, it's coming down to Alan Wake 2 or Wonder. Mostly because Remedy's last game and Control was nominated for Game of the Year in 2019 when it came out, and it didn't win because, what played spoiler to it and somehow won was obviously another From Software game that came out that year, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice.
Ooh.
And so, there's no From Software game in GOTY this year, so that's not to say From Software is going to play spoiler again. But based on the other contenders in Game of the Year, I'm not sure if it'll be able to win, and so that's why I'd say, based on that fact, I think it would win here. But then the other side to me says, right, I really enjoyed Wonder. I think they have done a lot of smart innovations, especially with the multiplayer side, that I really appreciate. It's these things where I'm like, I wish more games had this kind of asynchronous, synchronous multiplayer design, right, where it's like, you can play online and you're not exactly playing with other people, but they're kind of in your world and they can help you out, right? But it's all kind of like, it's like a weird way of saying they're emulating like they're playing with you, but then they're also not, because they can finish the level separately and leave you. But it kind of adds this weird extra level of like, man, I don't know who these random people are, but I want to beat that Yoshi because he's been running ahead of me this whole time. Mm-hmm. And so now I've created this like fake rivalry where I'm like, I've played Mario every single level, but now this guy's playing Yoshi, and I'm like, I gotta beat that Yoshi player. I gotta be the one to move on to the next level. And so I think based on that fact alone, it's Wonder for me, because it's added this extra layer of keeping with the Mario sensibilities, right? Like through and through, this is a 2D Mario, right? It's more of what you know. Like there's not really a lot that's different about this. Mm-hmm. But the smart innovations, like in the multiplayer, have made it like it's also a brand new experience where it's creating these moments that I didn't think Nintendo would ever do especially one of their core titles, right? Like, if anything, this could have been another like ARMS Palooza type of thing where they tried this mechanic out, right? And it may or may not work, but they're like, you know what? Let's put this in a mainline 2D Mario game, and lo and behold, it is a fun mechanic. So it's
a great game.
It's wonderful, dare I say.
Oh my gosh. You had us until the end. Until the end. Just like us, because we are finally to Game of the Year. 6 nominees, as always. Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Marvel's Spider-Man 2, Resident Evil 4, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. Is anything missing here? What do you guys feel about this list? I guessed all of these except for Resident Evil 4.
Can I say that Resident Evil 4 shouldn't be there? I'd say the rest of them deserve a vote. Resident Evil 4 should not be there. It's a remake. How can a remake be Game of the Year?
What? Don't be like that. Final Fantasy VII remake wasn't that nominated?
But they redid the story.
That
it's actually remade the story.
Yeah, it's remake in name, but it's not remake actually. If you as we come to understand it now.
Okay.
If anything, it's more of a sequel.
Whatever. Yeah. I'm surprised that Final Fantasy 16's not on here.
Yeah.
That's my biggest surprise, I think. But like these make sense.
It's because the main character is named Clive. There's a bunch of
just
Clive
not sexy.
haters.
Just not sexy. I think Ben Starr, though, we didn't talk about it. Ben Starr has to win that best performance because I thought that was great. Who plays Clive Rossfield in Final Fantasy 16. I definitely thought Final Fantasy 16 would be in that 6th spot instead of Resident Evil or Hi-Fi Rush.
Or Starfield? Or did Starfield not do well? Are people...
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if people liked it. It's a Bethesda title, which is great for some of us, not great for others.
Got it.
I fell off of it pretty soon after I started, honestly.
Whoa.
So I don't know if it hit as well.
Got it.
With people. So that doesn't surprise me as much.
I'm going to be honest. I feel like Baldur's Gate 3 got such like mad press and publicity, and like people are like loving it, but at the same time, like I know there's Zelda Tears of the Kingdom fanatics out there. Like I would love if Spider-Man 2 won.
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess. I'm honestly gonna. I think the masses are gonna pick Tears of the Kingdom. I think they're gonna just pick Tears of the Kingdom. They're gonna. Like. Yeah. That's.
It's been their game to lose this entire year.
I think.
When did it come out?
It came out
like
in
May
12th, 2023.
Yeah.
Obviously this year because we're talking about it now. But yeah, it got like 10s out of 10s like everywhere. Like I think it's Legends of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. People are just obsessed. I mean, it's really cool. Man, wait, Baldur's Gate 3 got really great reviews too.
Yeah.
Dang. Oh, I think it's honestly between those two. I think it's anyone's game. I think it's those two. I think Tears of the Kingdom is going to win out.
I think I heard a stat. There's maybe the most games with a Metacritic over 90 this year than like so many previous years. It's like 10 or 12. Like it's crazy the amount. Like Cocoon that we talked about for just a second got like a 92 or something. Like these games are doing well. My mind goes, it's between those two. In my mind, it's always been between those two.
Okay.
I would love, because I don't want boring Game of the Year conversations. Ours won't be boring because I feel like, one, none of us will play Baldur's Gate 3 probably by the time it gets to our time.
Yeah.
And Tears of the Kingdom, Tiffany and I probably have given the worst review about it versus everybody else because we've only played one temple. So our Game of the Year is not going to be boring. Tune into that.
That's true.
I would love some Agent of Chaos to nominate any of these other people besides Resident Evil 4. I'm kind of with you. But man, Alan Wake 2 as the Game of the Year, that would be crazy. Super Mario Bros. Wonder.
Oh, man.
Fantastic. Like, the world would blow up if any of those actually won. I feel like it's between the two of them. I think because Baldur's Gate 3 came out afterwards and it has taken everybody's mind, I think that Baldur's Gate 3 is going to run away with it. I think it will be between the two of them. And I don't know who I'm rooting for. I'm rooting for the third person. But yeah, I think Baldur's Gate 3 might win this. Won't be my game of the year, but I think it will be plenty of people's.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Alex, you being an Agent Chaos, or you going with one of the two big ones?
Yeah, where's Hello Kitty Island Adventure?
Oh my god! Or
Snub.
Disney Illusion Island.
Why isn't?
We
Yeah,
put
where's
those in the
Disney
family
Illusion
game.
Island? You know,
Family game to
Come
lose to
on.
Mario Wonder.
Where's Disney Speedstorm at? Microtransactions
I think it's on-
aside.
Oh my god!
Is it on the racing game? I think it might have been.
No, I don't think it's even nominated for best racing.
Oh, is it not?
Sport racing.
Oh man, it's not even listed. That game took
Oh.
took a month of my life.
Sucks.
I'm gonna be real.
Yeah, we have just like F1. Even Hot Wheels
Forza.
Unleashed 2 Turbocharged got on there somehow, you know?
Dang.
Honestly, some of these nominees are very suspect, so that's all we can say. Oh, no. Disney Illusion Island isn't best
It's family game.
Yeah.
so-
Yeah, it's
it
going to
gotta-
lose to Super Mario Brothers. Wonder. Yeah.
Yes, that is true. I don't know. Party Animals.
It's best
looked pretty
Nintendo
fun.
game. That's what best
But
family
Party
game
Animals.
I've
Well-
been interested in playing. What console is Party Animals on? Is that
I
a
think
Microsoft?
everything.
Oh,
I think it's everything. Yeah.
are you
Yeah.
for real? Is it on PlayStation?
I think it's Xbox, PC, Switch.
Guys. Oh no,
You want to play it when you graduate?
it's an Xbox game.
Oh,
It's not
it's
on
only
PlayStation.
unfortunate.
Alex, you lied to me.
Oh.
Is it on Switch, though? I think there's a Switch version.
It doesn't look like it.
Oh, it's on Xbox
Not
only?
per Wikipedia.
Listen, I'll set it up. I'll set it up on the
pepperonis.
TV.
Yeah,
We
it's
can
a-
have a Final Fantasy VII reunion at my house. You guys can come down. We'll play Party
Yeah.
Animals.
Like
That'd be
6
so
years
fun.
early.
That'd be
Wow.
so
Yeah.
fun.
The pregame for a reunion.
Yeah.
All right, Alex. Which one are you deciding for Game of the Year 2023?
It's very simple. BG3. BG3.
Okay.
Okay, that was a quick one for you. Okay.
Yeah. As much as I've only played 2 of the other games, it's weird because I've only played 2 of these 6 nominees, and I'm heavily pushing for one game I've never played and never will play. But like I said, based on what I've seen and based on just the possibilities, right? I think that's the major thing. A lot of these games are about the possibilities, right? Like when you're
yep.
saying something is game of the year, it's what moments will stick with you, right? Like as you're playing the game, does the game have a moment, at least for me, that really resonates with me and sticks with me throughout the rest of the year, where I'm like, man, only this game was able to pull off this moment that way. And, you know, as much as I mentioned for 2019 how Remedy got snubbed for Game of the Year with Control, with Sekiro winning over it, I really hope, you know, maybe they get their roses this year and Alan Wake 2 takes it. But at the same time, I'm like, man, Larian and what they've made with Baldur's Gate 3 is like almost unparalleled in this genre. I feel like, you know, not to say never, but for the type of game that is, it's very hard for any studio to replicate this. And so they've kind of really made this unique experience, right? To being able to accommodate all the choices, right? Characters could die, right? I think literally one of the first characters you meet, you can kill them and that just removes them from the rest of your game, or you keep
Wow.
them alive and they're just a core party member for the rest of the game. So even it goes to respect your choices there, right? It's like you don't need them. Yes, it locks you out of the story, their story, but they're not necessary. And I feel like Tears of the Kingdom also kind of competes on that guard, right? Like you able to create all these moments, but I feel like that also was a similar case with Breath of the Wild, right? As much more limited as that moveset was, it also still allowed you to create those kind of quirky moments of like, yeah, let's use this fun physics interaction to solve this puzzle. And it's more of the same. And so based on that, right, Resident Evil 4, it's a remake. Get it out of here. As much of as it is a new game,
Oh my
It's
god.
So
Still-
strong against
it's
it.
still taking. You have to be strong on some of these things. I think
Yeah.
for Game of the Year, I'm more of a proponent of new stuff, and so I feel like a remake is really a slap in the face to a lot of these other games that don't make the nominee. As much as I like Wonder, it is similar, right? Like more 2D Mario. Besides the online, there's not really a lot different. Besides maybe Bowser in castle form, but besides that, like BG3, BG3.
BG3. We'll see. They had the highest with Alan Wake 2 for how many nominations did I say? 8? Definitely the highest between the two of them. We'll see. This comes out. When is this happening? I should pull
December
that up.
6th. 7th.
December 7th.
Okay.
December 7th, my bad.
December 7th. Excellent. We'll count these up. This is always fun. I love these prediction episodes because we actually have no idea, especially since half of these categories that we talked about, we only played half of the games.
Yeah.
What's your house game list? Like, how many games have you guys played this year? I know you're down for obvious reasons, Tiffany.
Yeah,
so
not
we don't have
many.
to talk about it. We don't have to talk about
Okay.
it. Last year I played like 30 some games. I played a ton of games last year. And then this year I've played 15 through my GG app. I could see. So,
Okay.
these have been solid games. Like Persona 5 Royal was on there and that took like 120 hours. So
That's
like,
true.
listen, I'm making my choices where I make them.
Yeah.
Are there any of these nominations that make you think, okay, this got nominated a ton of times. Maybe I should prioritize these people before we have our top 6 Game of the Year talks this coming December, January?
Yes. I have to play and finish Spider-Man 2.
Okay,
I have
good.
to play and also
It's quick.
I want to say it's so interesting to me that Hogwarts Legacy is nowhere on any of these
Yes.
lists at all.
None of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Matt, as you reminded me that there have been so many games above 90 this year,
Mm-hmm.
it makes sense that Hogwarts Legacy kind of fell a little bit to the wayside.
Mm-hmm.
It is a little bit disappointing though, I think. Like it would have been cool to see it like somewhere, like
Yeah.
maybe
anywhere.
best art direction or even best score and music. Like that would have been cool. Best family game. Like
Yeah.
that would have been cool. Or
I don't
maybe
know. You can Avada Kedavra people in that game. That's not very family friendly.
okay, fine. What about independent debut? Is that
Some families are
Avalanche?
complicated.
That might
more
not be
complicated than others.
independent, but yeah, so that was a little bit of a surprise for me. But yeah, Spider-Man 2, like that I have to tackle it. I have to tackle it.
Yeah. Like I think it definitely could have been an action adventure game. Like easily.
Yeah.
Like it could have found its way onto there instead of Resident Evil 4. Because I am kind of in the same boat as Alex. I'm a little bit biased against Resident Evil 4 because we have seen it. They did not change anything but the graphics and how it looks. So to me, that's a poo-poo. I do not like it. Best independent game, though, those are the ones that I'm definitely going to be trying to play more of. Cocoon, Sea of Stars, Viewfinder. I will have played 4 of the 6 Game of the Year by the time we get there. I would like to finish Tears of the Kingdom by the end to give it its
No
due.
way.
That's my goal.
Are you for
That's my
real?
goal.
You're for real,
Yeah.
real.
Listen, I can mainline the story and get it done pretty quickly.
That's
I feel
true.
like. But other than that, I think those are kind of the big games that I want to play. There's nothing. I do not think that I want to play Baldur's Gate 3. It's one of those things where we were talking before we started recording about the Squidward meme. I feel that way with Baldur's Gate 3. Like
Yeah.
I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, look at all these people having fun. Man, I hope they enjoy themselves, but that's just not me. Just not me. Alex, anything?
Yeah, I think the main one is Dredge.
Okay.
Especially
There we
with
go.
the availability of that accessibility mode. It's like, maybe it takes away a core aspect of the game, but also it's like if it gets too intense, because there are these kind of levels of things being scary, right? Like in Alan Wake, and that's more of kind of a light and dark type of motif, right? Like things in the shadows type of thing. But the ocean, especially deep sea, what's in there, that's a whole different type of fear. And so things just kind of like lurking beneath the surface just kind of stirs up a whole nother level of like, yeah, I mean, I've been out in open water, not like very far, but I'm also like, yeah, my feet can't touch the ground. There's a very certain scariness that relates to that.
Try it without accessibility. Like, honestly, like, I'm not like this person that's like super strong against horror. Like Alan Wake 2, like, scared the crap out of me last night. Like, literally was like, what is that? Like, I am not enjoying myself while enjoying myself at the same time. You never get like that with Dredge. It's more like, oh, it's going to get me. Oh, it's going to get me. Got to put on my boosters. You know, like, it's not, like, it's a fine time. It's still a fishing game.
That's even worse
still
if it's
vibing.
like a chasing moment. To be
It's
like,
fine.
oh my God, it's chasing me down.
Oh my
Alex,
God.
play it. Tiffany, play it.
Band
It's
down
great.
the hatches, weigh anchor.
It's not on sale.
It's not on sale. Let's check the sales.
Black Friday.
It's Friday.
In,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
In 2 weeks.
Excellent.
Date in the
Well,
podcast. Oh yeah.
That's right.
Keeping
Hey,
us
you know,
honest.
these nominations came out today.
today.
And we're gonna be
Oh.
posting this soon. What is soon? Who knows?
No.
Soon
knows?
TM.
Yeah,
Yeah.
TM. All right, but that's another episode of the RXP podcast. If you like this, like it, subscribe, hit that bell, whatever else you got to do. I don't know. Do all the YouTube things and the podcast things. You can find us everywhere, Spotify. Find us on Twitter or X, whatever you like to call it. And we'll get back to you. Talk in your comments. Tell us everything that we didn't talk about. And tell us how much Final Fantasy IV should actually win Game of the Year this year. Shout out to Grandmaster Doug. Thank you, Tiffany and Alex, for joining me tonight. And I will see you next time. Some families are complicated, more complicated than others.
Really?